Okay, hey everybody, thanks for joining so much. Black and Bipolar podcast. I wanted to go ahead and say, hey, thanks for joining me into this episode, The Angry Black Coach. You can find her on Instagram. Please introduce yourself, lady.
So my name is Saskia Dure. I'm from the US and I live in Spain at the moment. I'm known as the Angry Black Life Coach, and I just operate from a space of embracing all emotions, all like responses as normal. Well, not all responses, most responses, because I don't condone violence or abuse
There's
in
some
any
toxic
way, shape, or form.
responses.
Yeah, so I don't condone violence or abuse in any way, shape, or form. So no, I didn't mean that, but like just natural responses in us being able to express ourselves in full range and motion. I've been living in Spain for 2 years. If you guys want to follow me or find out any of my information or like listen in, all of my platforms are under either the Angry Black Life Coach or just Angry Black Life Coach, usually on across all platforms is what I go by. So yeah, and that's about me. If you guys want to help in any way, shape, or form with me getting off the ground with my certification, because right now, of course, we're in the middle of COVID, you're welcome to send donations to my Cash App, which is $ Angry Black Life Coach, or of course PayPal, which is angryblackLifeCoach@gmail.com. So that's
And
a little
all
bit
of her
about
information will be found in the actual podcast episode and in the YouTube episode as well. So there will be links at the bottom so that you will be able to see it. I'm so used to not having the video on. Can you tell? Because I'm like looking up, talking, I'm like looking all around. So I apologize. I'm like, that's a squirrel out there. But no, please definitely check out her information. I appreciate it so much. And she appreciates it. So let me just talk to you a little bit. So, we're going to be talking about mental illness in white workspaces. And I know if you guys listen to my podcast about me quitting my job from a white workspace, you know that I have no issue finding anything to blame on white people. So, let's kind of in the nicest way possible, because I'm not going to lie, they are a trigger for me in workspaces. So, let's talk about that a little bit. So, as you all know, I do have bipolar type 2, just for a reminder of a bipolar type 2. And I also have psychosis, which means I listen to two distinctive voices on a daily on my left and right ear. Yes, it is annoying. It is like someone is whispering in me constantly, and they're two different tones. So, it's always a nice day. So, let me know about you. Tell me a little bit about you.
So for me, struggle like I struggle with low self-esteem. I don't know if that's considered a mental illness. Low
It is.
self-esteem, a lot of like PTSD from my that which ranges from a lot of PTSD from like neglect and different experiences in my childhood, because my parents like they did the best they could, but they came from extremely impoverished background. Both of my parents came from Haiti, which is one of the like most impoverished countries in the world, because we know why, white
Mm,
people.
yeah.
So yeah, so I struggle with that. I do have my moments of depression, and I do like have a lot of anxiety. I think I probably have more anxiety than depression overall. I think I have a lot of or it kind of meshes into one. Like I get start thinking about the past and have very sad feelings about that, and it kind of goes into how I fear what will happen in the future, or what fearfulness I have in the future. So yeah, I self-diagnose with those, and I go to therapy, things like that. I haven't been diagnosed by like a actual doctor for anything, but I know what it feels like, and it just doesn't feel like that's how it's supposed to be. And I know that it's not in the healthiest manner, or what I've been told is supposed to be healthy. So yeah.
How would you say therapy has been going for you since you've diagnosed yourself? I mean, those are definitely easy to diagnose, and of course applaud you for even taking that step and going to therapy, because a lot of people, especially black women, are very hesitant to it. I'm going to rephrase that. A lot of older black women I'm looking at you, grandma. Need to go to therapy. And I love her so much, but she knows how I feel. So to talk about, some of the things that have been traumatizing to us as kids. So, how did that feel to, take that first step?
So when I first went to therapy, it wasn't bad. I had a white therapist. Um, Now I have a black therapist. I feel a lot better with a black therapist than I do with a white therapist, of
Mhm.
course. So yeah, I think I do a lot better with them than I do with so it's been better. It did bring up a lot of trauma being in a white space because sometimes I felt like when I would tell her stuff, I felt like you could tell she felt a little bit resistant. So it made me feel like I had to shrink. Speaking with a black therapist, I feel more like I can expose, like open up, be
Right.
like explosive, like put myself, take up space, be everywhere.
That wall
Especially
drops
when we're
down.
talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
that wall drops down, feels a little bit more relatable. And then like there's things I will say that she doesn't really get pushed back to because she's like, yeah, I've had that experience or something very similar to it. So, or that I can see it very much being possible, even if I haven't had that experience or anything similar to it. So I think it's helped a lot with starting to just be able to look at things and put them out there instead of keeping them in my brain,
Mhm.
because that is the hardest part. And it literally, as I said to someone, it feels like you're eating your brain because it feels so painful. It just doesn't, you don't know where you're going. And it's like you're going in circles because eventually you're going to run out of things like to think of it as. So I've just been able to talk about stuff and given a space to just talk to myself until I see what exactly I'm feeling and
Mhm.
kind of run myself into a resolution.
Oh yeah, I definitely understand that. So I've been going to a white therapist, and there is always that hesitation. So one, the only reason why I started going to a white therapist is because I needed to go speak to someone, like anyone at that time, and my insurance is not the best, so it was very limited on what I could actually do. And out of pocket is a nightmare here in the United States. It's a nightmare. So I went to a white therapist instead. And I will have to say there are times where I'm longing for a someone that I can connect to on that level cultural wise, because I'm like there are things that I don't want to say because culturally it's only in this set, it's only you won't understand it, so then I'll have to explain it, or you'll just say you get it and then we'll move on from it, type of thing. So I personally have never experienced a black therapist. It's not because I don't want to, it's because I've been with this lady for so long and she already knows all of my issues at this point, so I don't want to repeat them again.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. So like there's just like the having to, it's like starting a new relationship. It's like I don't want to start over. I don't want to have to start a new relationship with someone because it is a relationship, paid or not. It's still a relationship.
Exactly. And I feel safe with her. We just started recently opening up on some childhood trauma, but it's always good to have that person that you trust and whatnot. But I'm glad that you were able to go forward in getting therapy and everything. Do you feel like that's an issue with our community?
Oh, sure, for sure. I like my mom gets like all these little, now she's not as bad, but when I was at the white therapist, she had like the worst attitude. She'd always be like, if I'd say something to her, like stand up to her or like set a boundary, she'd be like, oh, that therapist telling you to do this again. Or you got that from therapy, didn't you? And like she had this very like, now she's a little bit more open to it. Um, I don't know if I don't think she knows I have a black therapist, but she's more open to it. She's like, when I say stuff about therapy, she's like, oh yeah, like I get what you're saying, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I need to learn and stuff like that. But she's definitely not open to, like, I don't know if she'd ever take the steps to go to therapy. Even my sister went to therapy once and was like, I tried. And I think she liked it. It was just like she kept trying to come up with excuses. She's like, I don't want to be able to afford it. I can't do this. I'm like, girl, don't get your nails done. Don't do this. And then just put the money that way. And she was like, yeah, but still. And like, And my dad, I've never discussed it with him, but like, yeah, I think there's a lot of resistance in the community because it feels like you're telling other people your business, which is something that we're kind of told not to, but we kind of still do in the Black community because everybody knows everybody's business. So it's not really like don't tell anybody's business. It's more like don't try to tell anybody's business, anybody that could help you resolve the problem, our business.
Mm-hmm.
Or like create some type of peace or like resolution our business, because I feel like a lot of times that's a big issue with it as well, because it feels like I've noticed, and I think I've heard people talk about this a lot of times as like Black people, we want to attach ourselves to maintaining a like struggle in our life
Mm-hmm.
because we don't know what life looks like without struggle. We haven't really been positioned in a place where we can see life without struggle. So we kind of look for it or want to maintain it because it's kind of been associated and like become like the like meaning of our Blackness. Like a lot of people will tell people they're not Black who clearly are Black. They aren't Black because they haven't had an experience that they considered filled with struggle or has enough struggle to be marked as Black. I've been told that myself because of the way I talk, because my father has some level of wealth that I don't necessarily have access to. He has it, I don't. But
Mm-hmm.
because he does, I was often told like I didn't struggle the same way other people struggled. Um, and I've heard other people say that to other Black people throughout the diaspora within the United States, to each other. It's just very, and it's always based on like you didn't go through this. Like my mama didn't have this, my mama didn't have that. I didn't grow up with this, I didn't grow up with that, so that marks my Blackness. So a lot of times for us, if we get away from that, because you can see with rappers, they literally rap about their struggle. They never like they so yeah, of course some of them rap about their riches, but it's always tied to their struggle. Like I made it from not having anything to having this jewelry, but it's always still attached to their struggle to maintain their level of Blackness, like to still show you that they're Blackness. And a lot of them still, like, let's take example, T.I. or other rappers still can maintain in those like circles where they run into getting in criminal trouble because they want to still maintain that street cred that's attached to being in the struggle and being like a gangster, which is like thing. And so I think a lot of times therapy seems like a solution, like I said, and seems like a place where you could get out of the struggle. And that's not, that's removing, that's, you might as well turn in your Black card when you're doing that. So I think that's why a lot of people don't go to therapy in our community and throughout the diaspora, because they think it's like, what happens when I figure out like how not to live in struggle?
Yeah.
I'm living my Blackness. So yeah.
I can actually say that I've been on both sides of that, where I've actually like in middle school I lived in the projects with my family. We were not wealthy. My dad just lost his job. My mom was looking for one. She was bedridden because of my sister. Looking at my sister now. But we were in the projects and there were kids, Black kids that came from a little bit of more money, and we would actually make fun of them, and it's not anything that I'm proud of, but I recognize it. I recognize it as very mob like behavior because it's like, oh, we're all struggling. So it's like now we're attacking the one person who's not struggling. As I got older, we started becoming more stable financially. And then I was on the other side of that, where it's like these people in high school are like, you're not really Black because one they would say that one of my parents has to be white because I'm very light skinned, and you what do you even say to that? No, my parents are definitely Black. I just happen to have come out light skinned, but there is a bit there. That's a whole nother side of colorism that this is not what this episode's about, but we can always talk about it later. But anywho, and now I'm on the other side of that. And I'm like, this doesn't feel good. Why was I doing that? Like, why am I downing someone else's less struggle. And now I'm older, I'm like, shit, I don't want to struggle. I don't want to tell anyone. I came from the projects because it was hard. I mean, it was really hard. Like, I didn't realize how much our family was actually struggling because we were actually couch surfing. Like, I didn't realize like we were actually moving from house to house, and I just thought we were just like spending the night at other cousin's house or whatnot. No, we had no home to go to. So, it just goes into with that, like, Black people need therapy. Everybody needs therapy up in here because it's something that's like ingrained in us, like where we can't move forward. Just one of us can't move forward. Like, we all have to be in the same position. That's the way I look at it. You may view it a completely different way.
I think like we have to be in the same realm. I don't necessarily think in the same position. I feel like at least being in the stage of like, I want to make a change. Some people will be already in the change. Some people will like be further, of course, but at least in the mindset or be willing to make a change. Because I don't feel like, I think everyone progresses differently, of course, but I think at least everyone wanting to make a change. And that's the thing I'm starting to move around, like, is just like making sure I operate in spaces where people are like at least willing to make a change or
Right.
flexible.
Right. Yeah, because it gets really old when someone says the same thing over and over, or their mindset is the same way as it was 500 years ago. And you're like, this is not helpful to anyone. So I kind of want to start getting into your work life and how you've been dealing with how you dealt with the United States white space and how you're dealing with in Spain.
So it's kind of been the same. In the
Okay.
US, I worked in restaurants, and everywhere I worked pretty much was a predominantly white space. And I always was like ostracized as being too much. But then in some sense, like still like performing on par, but then being told I was doing not doing enough as well. So they could find like, because it's like we can't fire you for doing too much unless it's like harmfully too much, like
Mm-hmm.
sexual harassment, whatever, but she's just doing too much in her performance. And so we have to now like flip it that she's not doing enough in some way. So I always felt this weird struggle. So I was like, I can't live in this place of anxiety that they're trying to place me in, with not knowing if today's going to be the day they're going to fire me, or if I'm going to get written up again for whatever I do, or is this going to be the last call I take, where like whatever it was just this constant like feeling like I was on the brink.
Mm.
So a lot of times I would just like quit and move on to something else, or like, yeah, just quit, try to find something else either before I left or like right after I left. Here in Spain, it's been a little bit different. I've actually had to like, it's been weird because the last 3 years I've actually had to just sit in the same position, not at the same schools. Luckily, I've changed schools, but I've still had to stay in the same position. With that, I've actually felt like I found my voice more, because instead of letting myself like run away, I'm like, I'm gonna say something because I just don't like this. I'm not feeling this. It happened this like even this last past week, I got into a conflict with my coordinator about just making some suggestions, and him taking it as me telling him what to do, which I wasn't. I was just telling him what I was not going to do. And so and the expectation of like having to be extroverted here, because the people are extroverted, they're very extroverted, they love to talk, and I just don't necessarily like to talk, especially about the topics that they like to talk about. So that has been
Just
another
a
journey as
challenge.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel it 100%. Like, I don't understand why in those type of environments that why I have to meet the level of excitement that they have for, I don't know, Bob's Burgers. I love Bob's Burgers, but that doesn't mean I want to speak to Bob's Burgers, the show about you, or to you about it. But, you were talking about that you just quit, like you just upright and quit. How is that? Is that draining? How is that mentally? How is that like, how does that work for you?
I feel like, to say one thing to what you said originally, I do think that they just want your validation. I feel like if they feel like if they have a black validation, somehow it feels like they're not doing something racist-y, or like they can't, what they're doing won't be called racist later on. Like they're trying to check. 'Cause I feel like white people are very scared of being called racist. They're
Mm,
not scared of doing racist shit. They're just they're scared of being called racist.
yeah, I agree.
So, I'm sorry, what did you say the second question you asked
No,
me?
you're fine. No, I agree. I do agree with you. They do hate being called racist, and that's what I said in my email when I left to them, that they're very racist. Because this is when the George Floyd and the Breonna Taylor here happened. Two people were shot, and they just sent me like a little text. How are you doing? And like at that point to me, I was just like, they don't really care how I'm doing. They just want to know if I'm coming into work tomorrow. That's it. They just want to know if I'm coming to work tomorrow.
Bring your
So,
ass in tomorrow or no?
huh?
They're like, are you bringing your ass into work tomorrow or no?
Exactly. Bring your black ass in, mourn, and then come back in. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that is one of the reasons why I left, because they just did not care about the black person's opinion in there. And I was the only black person in there. There was a black guy in there who sided more with the white people than he did with me.
With you guys.
And it was kind of, it was tiring. It was really tiring because it's like he was a black man, and it was weird because like subconsciously I looked for him to be like that person that we have in common. We're both black in this. And we both have like this whole aura about us where we have to kind of like be careful what we say. But as soon as I got there, so a month after I started working there, I don't know why we were talking about dating and stuff like that, but he came in, the black guy came in and he said that, oh, I don't date black women. I can't date black women. And at that point, I was like, did anyone ask your preference? And I was just like, okay, well, you do. What do I say? I'm a month in and I'm just like, what I really want to say are some inappropriate words, but I'm
Okay.
I'm like, all right, this is awkward
Talking
because
to
I'm in a room full of white people. I'm black. He's black. He just said he doesn't date black people. And I'm uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, this has just happened. So I knew that this was not my brother. So
like,
I gotta just do this on my own, I guess.
not all
So
kinfolk or skin folk. I mean, all skin folk or kinfolk, whatever the saying
all
is.
skin folk aren't kint folk. So, and I knew that right then and there. I was like, this is not for me. But as I was saying earlier, you're quitting. So you were quitting all these jobs. How is that for you mentally? How did you come out of that? How did you say I'm going to go to another job after this, even though you know that going to the next white space is probably going to be like the next white space?
My dad. I had my dad being my self-talker. Like, I think we internalize our parents as the self-talk that we have when we're older. So he was literally in my head, like, you need to get a job. You're not gonna stay in my house for free. You're not gonna do nothing. So get a job. So I was like, I have to get a job. I have to do something to bring some type of income in because my dad is not gonna allow me to sit here with no income.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I left that job, I just went to teaching online. I was teaching online yeah, most of the week. Then I actually came to Spain for like, and I was in Europe for like 2 months in the beginning of 2018 and was teaching online a little bit with that, but was mostly relying on my income tax money. Then that ran out, came back to the US, um, was here for, was there for from April till September. So like 6 months. I was there for 6 months. And I was going to therapy actually then too. I was really depressed. I was working online. I actually was just working online, but still I was depressed. And so, because I was sitting in the house and my dad didn't see that as like real work.
Mm.
So, I didn't deal with it. I dealt with it as it came. Like, it was hard. There was some resistance, of course. I went to therapy. I relied a lot on therapy. I did what I had to do to scrape the money to get to therapy and was luckily able to do so by teaching online. And then eventually I got a job as working as an assistant manager at a restaurant. Um, it just made me uneasy. I had a lot of PTSD and I started like looking for signs. Like the minute I feel as a Black woman, femme, non-man, I have to look at how white people react after, and men in general, because Black men are harmful as well, can be harmful as well to me. So I have to look how they react, like their reaction to see how I'm going to make my next move, because I have to be careful to think of like the danger that comes with. So it just made me continue knowing that that's how I was going to have to be in white spaces. And a lot of times it just made me want to run. So like I stayed at that assistant manager position for like a month, and then I left. It was like at a restaurant. The guy was from Louisiana. He was white and bragging about how he stole these recipes from his mammy, who was a Black woman. One of the hostess that worked for me had a picture on her Instagram of her wearing a MAGA shirt. Some of the other girls, one night we were going to the car and I was like walking with them, and she gets in her truck and she has a MAGA sticker on the back of her truck. And when I looked at her and said, wow, she was like, well, you just know, like, I still see you as a person. I like you. I don't have any problem with you. It's not because I'm racist. Like, fuck, I gotta go. And then like, I saw like other people commenting under that worked with us on the girl's Instagram saying how they liked her MAGA shirt. I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go. I was like, this is not the pace for me. I can't morally sit in this place. It's hard. It makes it very hard. You have a lot of conflict also because it's morally, once you've been burned by being in a white space like that, you kind of said this thing like, I hate white spaces and I don't want to do this again, but you're like, I have to go to white spaces. So you have a moral conflict within you where you're like, one part of you is like, I shouldn't be here. I need to run. And the other part's like, I got to play and tap dance for massa. So you're just like,
I get
so
that
I left.
100%. I'm glad you left. You got out of those spaces because it's one of those things where it's like, I need money, but it's like, I don't need this for my mental health, because it was a battle for myself to really quit this job because it was good money. It wasn't like I was being like underpaid. I think they kind of overpaid me because I was their only Black assistant position. And I was like, okay, I don't got the skills that you've asked for, but okay, I'll do it because whatever. Um, it never made me feel safe in that space. Like everything I did had to be, I don't know, like 10 times better than the average. There was a white lady there and she did bare ass minimum. And if I did bare ass minimum, then it was like, oh, you're having a bad day. No, I'm doing bare ass minimum. Like she's doing bare ass minimum. We both on the bare ass minimum scale. Like
that's sorry to cut you off, because that's how I feel here in Spain a lot of times. I don't know what, like, I don't know if they've encountered some like overzealous white girl that just got out of university. I don't know if it's just a perception that they've seen on TV or stories that they hear about Americans. I don't know if it's because I'm Black and they have this like mentality that I'm inferior to them and that I should be putting in work to prove my value.
mm-hmm.
But that's exactly what happened in the conflict I had this week with my coordinator. The teachers in the classroom are expecting me to show up, not only as if I'm a teacher, but as if I'm a student. Like I'm supposed to literally be facilitating the classroom by myself. I'm supposed to like get instructions from them and follow the instructions to the T, but still get the students to like talk to me. Like, so I'm supposed to be the teacher for them, and then they're just sitting there like observing me. They don't speak in English. It just always, oh, she has a really nice American accent. Let her talk. Listen to her talk. I'm not going to speak. Listen to her nice accent.
Jeez.
And then if I ever say I'm not gonna do something, or I pull out my phone and I'm on my phone, they're like, oh my God, you need to do more work. This is where like, and then watching my hours, like watching like last week you didn't come because you said you didn't need me. So why was it you told me not to come? Well, then you need to make it up this week. I'm not gonna work twice as hard because you didn't need me last week. You just didn't need me. So that's my fault. Like even if I didn't show up, it's not for me to double up on work. I wasn't able to make it that day. I'm not feeling well. I have the right to have a not feeling well. And the crazy thing is I sent them an email at the beginning of the year trying to make them condense my schedule to 3 days. So I had 4 days off in case like whatever, because I have PCOS and I have like hormone imbalance. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I forgot to mention that I do have that. Like I have PCOS and hormonal imbalance, which yes, technically it also has anxiety. Like I have my periods are crazy. I get really, really like depressed, but I don't think it's depressed. I really feel like mostly I get shame. I start shaming myself a lot for being as expressive. Like when I'm about to start my period, I'm in my full range of emotion. So sometimes that's when I'm honoring myself and I'm like, I need to rest. like I need to rest for a day, or like the first 3 days of my period, or like the 3 days around the first day of my period. And I feel like I told them this. I did tell them this. Not I feel I did tell them this, and they're just like, well, we can't do anything about getting your schedule condensed. But then you want me to do all the most, and then they're like, oh yeah, go to the doctor and just get a doctor's note. Which, yes, it's much easier here or whatever. Like I told you, they're pumping you out like a machine. But I also don't want to. It's like we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't really want to go to a doctor's office to get you a doctor's note when you could just be fine without me not being there for a few days and
Exactly.
not need a doctor's note. Like I feel
Exactly.
like you need me to validate or something. But yeah, sorry, took that
No.
away from you. But it's very much what I struggled with here, like feeling that I have to prove something to them. Like if I don't show up over the top, I'm like they have something to say. But
No, yeah, I hear you completely. So I also go through that as well, but now I'm on this pill that helps with like the side effects, PCOS. And the first time I was misdiagnosed because I was having really bad pain and my periods were 2 months long. And I was like, what is going on? And the first lady, she didn't believe me. She said, you're just fine. You're doing fine. And then the second lady was a black doctor and she said, no, something's not right. So then she had me get an ultrasound and then everything just poured in. All the floodgates started happening. I was like, this is nice. So it's not only in the workspace, it's in the medical white space as well. You gotta play the role. You really have to play the role. But when I did quit this job, I went full time to being a realtor. And I said, you know what? I'll never have to do that again. But the thing is about being a realtor is that you're making a lot of cold calls and you don't know who's on the other line. So lately, what I've been doing is I've been cold calling people. I have their name, their number, and I have their email, but Google lets you do a reverse search for things. So I've been looking up people's profiles on Facebook and I've been getting a lot of Trump supporters. And it's been putting me into a position because I need money and I need the sales and it's my job, but I don't want to put myself at risk because I am clearly a queer person of color. I'm queer, I'm a black queer woman and it I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm alone with a Trump supporter who I don't know I don't know how deep of a Trump supporter he is at that point because there's
it
the
doesn't
Trump.
matter how deep you support Trump. That's all that matters.
I don't want the major ones that go to the Capitol. I want the one that's like, we're against them, blah blah blah. At least
And
they're
then like goes into the booth and votes for him.
yeah, the silent racist. Cool. Look, we'll sell with you because we're not racist. Wonderful. So it's going back into what you were saying with just like you're just gonna always have to play two kind of roles. Like you're either gonna be working for massa or you're gonna be in their space.
Yeah, until something happens. I don't know what that's going to look like. I really would like this perfect idea to be able to sell to people, because people need something like openly that you can sell to them. I've been in Clubhouse like talking about this and been called like radical as fuck for having these ideas that like somehow we could move away from any concept of what white supremacy has established for us. And they're like, you crazy radical, thinking that we could all live where we have access to education, healthcare, and like people are being treated equally and have equity, and like we do things because we want to and not because we have to out of necessity. And we breed a society that's actually created out of love and not survival. Like, because I was talking about like the medical field, I got a little pushback because Shaka Bars, I don't know if you know who he is. He did some stupid shit. Him and Tiffany Haddish did some stupid shit last night on Clubhouse, and were attacking this black female doctor, or black woman doctor. Sorry, don't she's not a dog. Black woman doctor, and they got her to the point where she almost committed suicide. And sorry, trigger warning. She almost committed suicide. I don't know if we need to edit that out, but she and because they said like they're super anti-vaxxers, and were saying that, and they doxed her and had people like all on her stuff, like coming after her. And I was just like, I get like there's a level I still don't trust black doctors as well, because I'm like, you're being taught by the same system that doesn't that like would test on Black bodies as if they were animals and didn't
Right.
care about them, and use Black bodies like to experiment. So even if you are like, as a Black person, you still have to feed into the system. Even as a teacher, even teachers that Black teachers, even if they try to come in and like do that, like LeBron James opening his school, he still had to follow the common curriculum, which is based in white supremacy. So
Right.
like, it's like great having that space, being in those spaces, but it's still like you're learning white supremacy. You're still getting like ingrained with white supremacy just by a Black face.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same with doctors. And I said something in a room and I felt like she thought I was saying like anti-vaxxer and like doing this stuff. But I was like, no, I'm not saying that, but I feel like we still need to question. We still need to raise some questions about, because these Black doctors, yes, it's great to have a Black face. And yes, we have more higher rates of survival with them. But there's some Black doctors that are just doing it to get the money and get the check. So they're going to very much align themselves and not care or have compassion or empathy for their patients, Black especially, because they're aligning themselves with white supremacy. Of course, there's doctors that probably truly care and probably want to do that, but that's what I'm saying. That would create a space where that would happen, because then those doctors wouldn't be doing it for the money. They'd just be like, oh, well, I'll be a carpenter or a painter because I don't have to worry about feeding myself, and I can just like enjoy painting and doing the arts instead of forcing myself into being a doctor and killing my patients. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Sorry.
think you bring up I think you bring up a good point there. Do you feel like Clubhouse is helping our community, or do you feel like it's harmful? Because I've been getting a lot of back and forth reviews. I'm not on it because I know that I would get deep into it. So I don't think I'm gonna take that plunge yet.
It depends on who you are. I'm a person that likes to learn. I like
Mhm.
to talk. I like to educate, but I also like to learn. I believe in the osmosis pedagogy. I believe that we should both be getting it. Like, it should be flowing both ways. I try to operate my classrooms with my students where I'm learning stuff. Like when I'm with my students and they're speaking Spanish and stuff, I'm like, oh, thank you. You taught me a new Spanish word, like hyping them up. Like, we're learning from each other. I'm teaching you English. You're teaching me Espanol. Yay. Things like that. So I showing them that I'm learning something from them, and not like just like I'm putting everything into you. I'm the commander. So I think, getting back to the question, like, yeah, I think that if you come with that mindset,
Mhm.
you can definitely grow in Clubhouse. I've definitely learned a lot of stuff. I've gone into like LGBTQIA like rooms and just listened to them talk, and like also they've asked me to join in and just give my perspective, not like on like their lifestyle or anything. I would never fucking do that, but just like in general, just like what oppression you're facing. They've given me a space to talk, and like not been like made me feel uncomfortable or gaslighted me like, you could have done this, you could have done this. Like, they're very open
Mhm.
because of what they've faced as well. Of course, there's also rooms where there's like people in LGBTQIA that are misogynistic as fuck still. But I'm starting to scope it better. I'm starting to block people. I think you just have to learn, have discernment, not feed into stuff, because I think that a lot of people are using it. Just imagine how like on Facebook they have the clickbait articles. A
Uh-huh.
lot of people are using those type of titles to get people in their rooms and
Uh,
like divert from that topic into something else. Like, it'll be like, colorism, is it a real issue? Let's talk about it. Then you go in the room and there's a bunch of Black men being like, I only like light skinned girls, like British black men or like American Black men. I don't like light skinned girls because, you know, light skinned girls know how to act right, they don't dress right, they have it, or like ADOS, like this new ADOS movement coming up where they're like, we're like the real Americans, where this is this, like we ain't gonna. I'm like, first off, that sounds really elitist in classes, and like,
mhm.
are you literally trying to make it, are you trying to sell it as if your ancestors had a choice of where they landed? Like, this, they didn't come here by choice, so let's not do that. But yeah, so you have to have discernment, and I've had a lot, like blocking those. Every time I see something ADOS, block. If I see their profile ADOS, block. If I see something in their profile about like Forex or Bitcoin, block. And then as you block people, the numbers start configuring it around what you're actually feeding into. So like, I've gotten into a lot of mental health spaces about like how colorism and other forms of oppression impact us and how that is. So I'm shifting away from that and stuff like that. Some of the conversations, I think, yeah, because like I went to a conversation about STD and I shared like a really like I've been very open. Like when I was younger, I made very dumb decisions and like I contracted an STI from a guy 3 times, and I shared that, and this girl on Twitter was like, she's bloody fucking dumb. What the fuck? Like, how did I'm like, I was a teenager, like, chill,
Wow.
like, and I was like, this was supposed to be quote unquote in like a I believe they were cisgender but not heterosexual. I believe they were queer. They came on and they checked them. They were like, yeah, I've had contracted diseases several times. I'm out here and I'm not going to hide about it. But the way y'all are talking about people when they're being open in this open space and this is supposed to be a safe space is not safe. And the way y'all talking about like using terms like allowing people and not checking people when they're using terms like dirty and clean to refer to like people with STIs and people without STIs is toxic and unsafe. And I was like, thank you. I had left the room by then, but I was still like, he had retweeted what I said on Twitter, and like I saw what he had written about it, but he had like been clear, and other people had like commented applauding him, like, thank you for checking them, because I was listening and I was cringing at how some of the people were talking about people and making comments about people and being very, very like careless. So you have to really, and like after that, I was like, the girl that was leaving the room, I was like, block, because I don't want to be in another room like this. So yeah, it's definitely, my space has definitely become more focused on around what I want, which is like mental health solutions and mental health like awareness around oppression and how it impacts us in every day as Black people, as Black women, as Black femmes, and non-men. So yeah, it's definitely been more of that focus. And yeah, and everyone in those areas, and especially like in working class. So yeah, like I see more leftist stuff in my space and like things like that I like. So I'm like, yeah,
That's nice.
okay.
And that's the direction your Instagram page is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm as far left. Like I believe like I'm not like a tree hugger or anything. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't know if you believe in astrology. I'm a Leo. I like flashy things. I just like nice things. I can't lie. And I know that's part of capitalism as well. But like I'm not completely like, oh, we're gonna just like be living naked and like wearing loincloths. I think that we're all like, I think there's a way to still have a resemblance of what we see as society now, and not like go back to primitive age where we're like gonna be using stone wheels or anything. I think there's a way, like I said, of ironing it out where everyone's in the space that they need to be. The people that want to be fashion designers can be fashion designers, where they don't have to charge $80,000 for a dress because they're trying to make livelihood or make themselves seem exclusive. They can design stuff and people can buy it, and people will still be making clothes. People will still be farming, because there's people that love doing those things. There's people that actually love doing every profession that exists. It's just some either don't have access to it, some are doing it under pressure, under the pressure of like having their livelihood taken away from them at any moment, or some of them went into a profession just because they wanted to put themselves in a class bracket that would keep them away from ever being poor or again, or in the first place. So I think in a space where we move away from that, people will find their roles in what they want to do and not what they have to do.
Oh, that is definitely an ideal utopia. I like it.
The utopian world. But I think it's possible, and I think that people think I'm crazy. I don't know if it's gonna happen in my lifetime. I'm 30 years old, so I don't know, but I feel like it's very possible. I feel like people could definitely like, it just takes a lot. That's where I think I come in with the mental work of like being aware that it is possible. There's a space where you can operate and be completely free. To be who you are, especially for Black people, because I don't think we have that. It's so sad. It's just sad. I feel like we always have to like change who we are and manipulate in many spaces, even around our family sometimes. So I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. No, I was done.
Oh no, that's what I was talking about in my last episode. With family surviving the holidays, I have so many characters that I give my family members. I've created like certain people for certain people. Like this is Tony that you get right here. Like, but you don't know about this Tony's like financial issues, but my mom does, but my dad doesn't, and my sister doesn't care. So it's kind of like you create all these personas for certain people, and it gets tiring because you just want to be able to be yourself. And which is one of the reasons why I did start my podcast, because it's just this is who
Mhm.
I am. This is what I deal with on a daily basis. And, when I did start it, I had a lot of feedback and a lot of people reaching out, a lot of white friends reaching out and saying, like, oh, you know what? I did notice that something was off and everything like that, but nobody said anything when I was asking for help. So it was kind of like, you got to make it. You're going to make it. You got to be strong. You're such a strong person. I fucking hate when people say I'm such a strong person because I break down so easily. Like, it don't take much for me to break down, truly. I hate when people say that for me personally, I hate when people tell me that
No,
I'm a strong person.
I feel like, yeah, there's better ways of voicing it because it sounds like you can never, it's kind of limits you to a box. I feel
Mhm.
like there's a way of not making it so binary. You could just say, I really appreciate how you've handled some situations that I don't think I could get past. Or like, I really admire that and I want to like mimic, because that's really what it is. Just say, I really want to like mimic how you handled that situation, or I really want to take from how you handle that situation and apply it to my own life. That's a better way. You're taking it on yourself and not putting
Right.
it on the person, like to make them on this pedestal. As I've been working like on my relationships, I noticed that I pedestalize people a lot.
Mhm.
And that's a big way of doing it. Like using these grandiose compliments like you're amazing, oh my god, like you rock this world, you do this, and it's like, chill son, like you sound
Right.
it doesn't sound believable. And that's why I've like pushed away from like compliments lately, because I feel like a lot of them put a lot of pressure on people. Like I feel like there's a way of wording stuff to show that you like are inspired or in awe of what the person did without putting it all on them. You could just be like, wow, like from my perspective, that's something that I would really like to do myself, because they may not have liked how they handled it and they have that right. But when you like, it's kind of like you're gaslighting them when you say like, you did that great, you're strong,
Yeah.
especially if they felt weak. Like it's okay to feel weak. And that's another thing where I said, like embracing all the emotions, like it's okay to feel weak, and stop trying to get people, because I do that a lot. Stop trying to get people out of uncomfortable emotions. I'm like, oh, she's feeling weak, so I need to compliment her on how strong she is. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't. You
Yeah.
don't. You could just
For
be quiet. You could just listen.
Yeah. Oh God, listening is so important, especially when you're going through the moment. For myself, I know that when I was at work, I didn't have that point where I wanted to, when you were talking about expressing your emotions and leaning into your emotions, I hit it. I just hit it because I didn't want my white coworkers to think that I was weak or I couldn't handle the job, or that pity moment that they're going to give me and then expect me just to keep doing the quality work that they think I'm going to give them. So I would just go to the bathroom and just have my moment because there's nothing else I can do. And if I do try to explain it to someone, they're just going to, I felt like there was going to be pity. And again, this was at a time where I was not medicated. I was just going up and down, and just all crazy. I wasn't going to therapy, but I didn't want that pity. But I know that's a lot of people who don't want to seem as weak in that. So how do you coach people to kind of get through that?
I just take away that like you said, you also don't want to seem strong. You don't want to put yourself in a binary hold.
Mhm.
So just embrace that. And I start asking them questions as well. Like, what is it about feeling weak that like you don't like, or what is weakness to you? I ask questions. I think that's the biggest thing, is asking questions like, what is weakness to you? Because everyone has a different perception of what weakness is. Once we can clarify what what you think is weakness, then what does not being weak look like? Because now when you've identified what weak is like, now you can identify what not looking what weak is. And then how do you go from where you are here feeling weak to changing to feeling strong? Because it's more of a matter of emotion and not necessarily a matter of you're stuck in that one place. It's an emotion that came up. And also, like, I would ask, like, what have you been able to accomplish in your weakness? Like, what have you been able to accomplish when you've been feeling weak? Because that's also something too, because I think we don't think about all we have done. We think about what we haven't done in our moments of weakness. Because I've been weak. Like I told you, after leaving the job, I felt at my weakest. I freaking left the country. I got my whole ass visa, moved my ass to a whole ass country that I don't even know how to speak the fucking language, around a bunch of whole ass, white ass, purebred white ass motherfuckers, and did all that in a time that I could consider, quote unquote, I felt weak and in my most depressed. So I think it's also calling them to question stuff and recognize that what you quote unquote feel is weak is you just focusing on one part of what you were doing in that whole time. Because what I was focused on was not having a job, but I wasn't focused on all the things I was doing, moving around in the still doing stuff. And like I said, I moved abroad. I did like a lot of shit. Like I did a lot of shit. I was and not only that, not to like, oh, credentialize, but I was also working on my master's degree. I had a whole ass, like I was in a whole learning online. I was doing it online at Troy University. And you have to stay on yourself because online classes are a bit harder than like on-site classes because you don't have to like the schedule of you have to be here or your grade's gonna count. It's just like, turn this in by Friday. So you have like a whole week to like wander around and you could wait till like Friday at like 11 o'clock and do it real quick. So there's more accountability. And I was doing all that and still had the awareness enough to go to therapy. So it's like recognizing like, what were you able to accomplish? Like we hear you dwelling on you were jobless, but what were you able to do in the time that you were jobless?
Right. And I think that's a good point to kind of leave us on here because I really like that we're leaving on, focus on what the things that you have done because I feel like we do forget what you were saying. Like we do forget like all the great things we do in between a feeling like that. I mean, you woke up, you took a shower, possibly you ate something, you're present in that moment. I mean, and that takes a lot for someone who's going through depression, anxiety, PTSD, anything that you're going through. It takes a lot just to get up out of bed. So just everyone just remembering that you're enough. You've done enough. Just keep breathing. Like
Yeah. That's
honestly.
another thing. I like posted about it yesterday. I just like we need to realize as Black people, but I think especially as Black women, and femmes and non-men in whatever spectrum you are, like class wise, education wise, um, disability or ableness wise, we a lot of times value capitalism and maintaining capitalism and these systems more than we value ourselves and put ourselves behind that. And a lot of times we need to recognize that we're worth more than that. We were existing before they existed and we helped them exist. We created them. So we need to like respect that and like honor ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate it. I know it's getting late over there and it's getting to lunchtime over here. So I really want to go eat the pizza that's made for us. So
I have to make a pizza. That's we eat dinner late here. Like they eat dinner at like 9 and 10. So
oh
I'm about to,
God. No,
yeah, I know.
I
So
told
I've
you
gotten
I'm in bed by
accustomed to
8
it.
p.m.
Yeah, I know. They're like, oh, what time do you eat dinner? They ask me because they think I still eat dinner early. I'm like, no, I've gotten used to it now. I've been here 2 years, but yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony, for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
I enjoyed
Um,
I
sorry.
enjoyed your presence here too. You are honestly very funny. I love it. And everybody, please just remember to definitely go follow her page. All the resources will be located in the episode. And you can also watch this episode on YouTube or any podcast of your choosing platform. All right. Thank you.